The breakdown of rock through chemical processes like acid rain. Chemical weathering. Chemical weathering is when rocks are dissolved or changed by chemical reactions, like when rainwater causes them to break down.
Imagine you've left a metal bike out in the rain for months and it begins to rust and degrade. This is similar to how rocks break down through chemical weathering, such as when acid rain interacts with them. Just as the rainwater, mixed with air, slowly corrodes the metal on your bike, acid rain falls on rocks and chemically reacts with minerals, leading to their gradual breakdown.
The processes which break down rocks. Weathering. Weathering is the process where rocks are broken down into smaller pieces by natural forces like wind, water, and temperature changes.
Imagine the frustration of trying to unwrap a stubborn candy wrapper that just won't come off in one piece. Just like how persistent fingers work to peel away the wrapper bit by bit, weathering breaks down rocks over time through various processes. In this analogy, your persistent fingers are like the forces of nature, such as wind, water, and temperature changes, gradually wearing away the rock layer by layer, much like the wrapper around the candy.
The loose mixture of rock, minerals, and organic matter that covers the earth. Soil. Soil is the top layer of the earth where plants grow, containing minerals, organic matter, and water.
Imagine trying to make a perfect smoothie with a mix of fruits, yogurt, and a bit of honey. Just like this smoothie relies on the right blend of ingredients to be nutritious and delicious, soil is a mixture of rock particles, minerals, and organic matter that sustains plant life. In the same way that the balance of fruits and yogurt impacts the texture and taste of your smoothie, the composition of soil components determines its fertility and ability to support life.
An area of deposited sediment along a coast. Beach. A beach is where sand and small rocks are deposited by the ocean along the shoreline.
Imagine trying to organize a closet that constantly accumulates clothes, shoes, and accessories. Just like the closet gradually fills up with items over time, a beach is an area where sediment is continuously deposited along the coast. In both cases, there's a natural collection process. For the closet, it's the accumulation of personal belongings. For the beach, it's the gathering of sand, gravel, and other materials carried by the wind and waves.
The process of dropping sediment by water or wind. Deposition. It is when particles carried by wind or water settle and accumulate in a new location.
Imagine you're carrying a heavy bag of groceries home, and as you get tired, you start to put down items one by one along the way. This is similar to how water or wind, when losing energy or speed, begins to drop the sediment it carries. Just like you lighten your load by leaving groceries on the path, water or wind lightens its load by depositing sediment, with both processes leaving a trail of items or particles behind in their wake.
The process in which rock is worn away and transported by water, wind, or ice is erosion. Erosion is when natural forces move bits of rock or soil from one place to another.
Imagine trying to keep a sandcastle intact on a busy beach, with people constantly walking by. Just as footsteps cause the sandcastle to slowly crumble and spread across the beach, erosion involves the gradual wearing away and movement of rock by natural forces like water, wind, or ice. In this analogy, the sandcastle represents the rock, the footsteps symbolize the forces of nature, and the spreading sand mirrors the transport of eroded materials to new locations.
A wide valley through which a river flows and can overflow. Floodplain. A floodplain is a flat area near a river that can get covered with water when the river floods.
Imagine trying to pour a large pot of soup into a small bowl without spilling any. Just as the bowl can overflow when it can't contain all the soup, a floodplain is a wide valley that accommodates a river's overflow when it has too much water to hold. In this analogy, the pot is like the river carrying excess water, the bowl represents the riverbanks, and the spilled soup symbolizes the overflow that spreads across the floodplain, much like water spilling beyond the river's boundaries.
A large mass of slow-moving ice and snow, glacier. A glacier is a huge, slow-moving river of ice and snow formed from compacted snow over many years.
Imagine trying to push a heavy piece of furniture across a carpeted floor. Just like a glacier, which is a massive body of ice and snow moving slowly over land, the furniture moves at a glacial pace due to the friction and weight involved. The slow, deliberate movement of the furniture across the carpet mirrors how glaciers gradually shift and carve out landscapes over time, with the carpet representing the Earth's surface and the furniture symbolizing the vast, heavy ice mass.
The sudden movement of loose rock and soil down a slope, landslide. In simple terms, a landslide is when a lot of rocks and earth on a hillside suddenly falls or slides down.
Imagine trying to carry a precariously stacked pile of books across a room, only for them to suddenly tumble and scatter on the floor. This scenario is much like a landslide, where the pile of books represents the loose rock and soil on a slope, and your movement across the room mimics environmental changes that trigger a landslide. Just as the books fall when the balance is disturbed, loose earth can slide down a slope when stability is lost due to factors like gravity and saturation from rainfall, causing a sudden movement akin to the cascade of books hitting the ground.
A broad curve in a river. Meander. In science, a meander is a winding curve or bend in a river formed by water erosion and deposition.
Imagine trying to navigate through a crowded room at a party to reach the snack table on the other side. Much like the river encountering obstacles such as rocks and uneven terrain, you are forced to take a winding path as you weave around groups of people, furniture, and other obstructions. Just as a river forms broad curves or meanders when its direct path is impeded, you too are creating a meandering path through the room to reach your goal, highlighting how both situations involve adapting your route in response to obstacles.
The process by which layers of rock gradually break off. Exfoliation. Exfoliation is when outer layers of rock peel away due to pressure changes and weathering.
Imagine peeling an onion, where each layer comes off to reveal another beneath it. This is similar to the process of exfoliation in geology, where layers of rock gradually break off to expose new layers underneath. Just as the onion's outer layers dry out and loosen due to handling and environmental exposure, rocks experience temperature changes, pressure, and natural weathering that cause their outer layers to separate and flake off, revealing fresh surfaces below.
The breaking of rocks without any chemical change, like by plant roots, is called mechanical weathering. Mechanical weathering is when rocks are broken down into smaller pieces by physical forces, such as wind, water, or plant roots, without changing their chemical structure.
Imagine trying to squeeze into an old pair of shoes that are now too tight. Just as your foot exerts pressure on the shoe's material, causing it to stretch or crack without changing the fabric itself, plant roots grow and push against rocks, breaking them apart without altering their chemical composition. In both cases, an external force applies pressure to cause a physical change without altering the intrinsic makeup of the material.
A chemical change in which a substance combines with oxygen, like when iron forms rust, is called oxidation. Oxidation is when a material reacts with oxygen and changes like an apple turning brown.
Imagine leaving a slice of apple out on the counter only to find it turning brown after a while. This browning process is similar to oxidation, where the apple's flesh reacts with oxygen in the air, much like how iron reacts with oxygen to form rust. Just as the apple's surface changes color due to exposure to oxygen in oxidation, substances like iron combine with oxygen, leading to a transformation that we recognize as rusting.
A soil layer different from the layers above and below it in particle size or pH. Soil horizon. A soil horizon is a distinct layer within the soil that differs in color, texture, structure, or composition from other layers.
Imagine stacking a series of books on a shelf, where each book is a different size or has a different color cover. Just like these books stand out against each other due to their distinct appearances, a soil horizon is a layer in the soil that is noticeably different from the layers above and below it, either in particle size or pH. In this analogy, each book represents a layer of soil, and the differences in size or color are like the variations in particle size or pH that define each soil horizon.
A cross-section of soil that shows the different layers' horizons. Soil profile. A soil profile is a vertical slice through the soil, showing its layers like a layered cake.
Imagine organizing your closet where each shelf holds different items like clothes, shoes, and accessories. Just like how each shelf in your closet serves a distinct purpose and holds specific items, a soil profile consists of various layers known as horizons, each with unique characteristics and functions. In this analogy, the top shelf is like the topsoil, rich in organic matter. The middle shelves resemble subsoil with minerals, and the bottom shelf is like the bedrock, providing foundational support, illustrating how each layer in both your closet and the soil serves specialized roles to keep the overall system organized and functional.
The wearing away of rock by other rock or sand particles. Abrasion. Abrasion is when rocks or sand rub against each other, slowly breaking down surfaces over time.
Imagine wearing down the soles of your favorite shoes by walking on rough pavement every day. Just as the constant friction between your shoes and the pavement gradually wears away the material, rocks and sand particles can erode larger rocks over time through repetitive contact. In this analogy, your shoes are like the larger rocks, the pavement represents the smaller rock or sand particles, and the act of walking is akin to natural forces, like wind or water, that cause the abrasion.
The slow downhill movement of soil or rock. Creep. Creep is the gradual and continuous downward movement of soil or rock on a slope due to gravity.
Imagine trying to keep a pile of laundry stacked neatly on a sloped surface, only to find that over time, it gradually slides down and loses its shape. This is similar to how soil or rock slowly moves downhill in a process known as creep. Just as gravity slowly pulls the laundry down the slope, causing it to shift and settle over time, gravity also acts on soil and rock, causing them to gradually move and reshape the landscape.
Wind erosion that removes fine soil particles. Deflation. Deflation is a process where wind blows away loose, small particles from the ground, changing the landscape.
Imagine you're sweeping a dusty floor, and as you whisk the broom, the small dust particles get lifted into the air and carried away, leaving only the larger debris behind. This is similar to the concept of deflation in wind erosion, where the wind picks up and carries away fine soil particles, leaving the larger, heavier particles behind. Just like how the broom's sweeping motion removes the lighter dust particles from the floor. The wind's force selectively removes the smaller soil particles, altering the landscape over time.
A mound of sand deposited by the wind. Sand dune. A sand dune is a hill made of sand that's formed by the wind in deserts and coastal areas.
Imagine trying to organize the clutter on your desk, but no matter how much you tidy up, small items keep piling up in the same spot. This is similar to how wind moves grains of sand across a desert or beach, depositing them in a mound called a sand dune. Just like your desk collects clutter because of certain habits or tendencies, a sand dune forms because the wind consistently drops sand in the same location, building up over time into a noticeable mound.
Wind-blown deposits of fine sediment. Loess. Loess is a type of soil made of very tiny particles that were carried and deposited by the wind.
Imagine you're trying to keep your house clean, but every time you open the windows, a fine layer of dust settles on your furniture. This is similar to how loess forms, as fine particles are carried by the wind and eventually settle over large areas, creating deposits of sediment. Just like the dust in your home is transported through the air and settles on surfaces, loess consists of tiny particles that are blown by the wind and accumulate on the ground, creating layers of fine sediment over time.
The downhill movement of rocks or soil. Mass movement. Mass movement is when gravity causes rocks or soil to slide down a slope.
Imagine trying to carry too many groceries at once, where the bag starts slipping out of your hands and fall to the ground. This scenario is similar to mass movement, where gravitational forces cause rocks or soil to move downhill. Just as the weight and instability of the overloaded groceries cause them to slip from your grip, the force of gravity and the instability of soil or rocks on a slope result in their downward movement.
A ridge of rock debris deposited by a glacier. Moraine. A moraine is a pile of rocks and soil left behind by a moving glacier.
Imagine walking through your house and gradually accumulating a trail of items, like socks, magazines, and toys, as you tidy up from room to room. This clutter trail you create as you move is much like a moraine, which is a ridge of rock debris left behind by a moving glacier. Just as your path through the house results in a line of items that marks where you've been, a glacier drags rocks and debris along its journey, depositing them in a ridge that traces its past movement. The socks and toys are like the rocks, and your purposeful path through the house is akin to the glacier's slow, deliberate progression, both leaving a clear trail of where you've traveled.
The process by which a glacier picks up rocks as it flows over land is called plucking. Plucking occurs when a glacier moves over bedrock, freezing and lifting pieces of rock out as it advances.
Imagine walking through a muddy path and how your shoes pick up clumps of dirt and pebbles as you go. Just like your shoes, a glacier moves over the land and picks up rocks and sediments, which become embedded in the ice. The connection here is that both your shoes and the glacier act as carriers, collecting debris as they move along their respective paths. In both cases, the surface they move over adheres to them, demonstrating how movement can result in the accumulation of external materials.
The sediment left behind by a melting glacier. Till. Till is a mix of rocks, sand, and clay deposited directly by a glacier.
Imagine cleaning out your refrigerator and finding a sticky residue left behind by spilled juice. Just like how the juice leaves behind a sticky film when it evaporates, a melting glacier deposits sediment as it retreats. The sticky residue is to the juice as the sediment is to the glacier. Both are remnants left behind after the main substance, juice or ice, has disappeared.
Water that flows on the ground instead of being soaked into it. Runoff. Runoff is the water that moves over the surface of the land, often after rain, instead of soaking into the ground.
Imagine trying to pour a large cup of water into an already full glass. Just like how the excess water spills over the edge of the glass because there's no more room to contain it, runoff occurs when water flows across the ground because the soil is too saturated to absorb any more. The ground acts like the full glass. Once its capacity is reached, any additional water, such as rain, has nowhere to go but over the surface, just as the extra water spills out of the glass.
A water current parallel to the shoreline. Longshore current. It is a movement of water that carries sand and sediment along the coast.
Imagine trying to walk on a crowded sidewalk where everyone moves in the same direction as you, but slightly to the side, gradually nudging you along. This is similar to how a longshore current works, where the movement of water parallel to the shore slowly carries objects, like sand and debris, sideways along the coast. Just as the flow of the crowd influences your path on the sidewalk, the longshore current subtly shifts everything in its path parallel to the shoreline, guiding it along the coast, just like the crowd guides you along the street.
Decayed plant and animal matter in soil. Humus. Humus is the dark, organic material in soil formed from the decomposition of plants and animals, helping to enrich and maintain soil health.
Imagine trying to clean out your messy closet where you keep tossing clothes without organizing. Just as your closet accumulates layers of clothes over time that you eventually sort and use to create new outfits, soil accumulates layers of decayed plant and animal matter, known as humus, which enriches it. In both scenarios, the clutter in your closet and the accumulation of organic matter in soil serve as a reservoir of resources, clothes ready for new outfits or nutrients ready for growing plants, demonstrating how past accumulations can be transformed into valuable assets for future use.
When water seeps into a rock, then freezes and expands, cracking the rock. Ice wedge. An ice wedge is a crack in the ground formed by the expansion of ice, commonly found in cold climates.
Imagine trying to fit too many clothes into a small suitcase. Just like how the suitcase bulges and eventually might strain at the seams or even break when you zip it up, water that seeps into the cracks of a rock expands when it freezes, creating pressure. In both cases, the extra volume, whether it's clothes or ice, forces the container, be it a suitcase or a rock, to crack under pressure.
The solid layer of rock beneath the soil. Bedrock. Bedrock is the hard, solid rock that lies underneath soil and other loose materials on the Earth's surface.
Imagine you are trying to find a stable Wi-Fi signal in your home, but you keep getting interrupted by obstacles like walls and furniture. This situation is similar to the way bedrock acts as a stable foundation beneath the shifting layers of soil and debris on the Earth's surface. Just as the stable Wi-Fi signal is the underlying constant you need for a smooth internet connection, bedrock provides the solid, unchanging support necessary for the layers above it to remain steady and secure, despite the shifts and changes they undergo.
The management of soil to prevent erosion and nutrient loss. Soil conservation. It involves practices that protect soil from being washed or blown away and keep it healthy for growing plants.
Imagine trying to keep sand from slipping through your fingers at the beach while also ensuring your packed lunch doesn't lose its flavor. Just as you need to cup your hands tightly to keep the sand from spilling and store your food properly to maintain its taste, soil conservation involves carefully managing the land to prevent erosion and retain essential nutrients. In this analogy, your hands are like methods used to prevent soil erosion, such as planting cover crops, while the efforts to maintain your lunch's flavor resemble strategies like crop rotation and organic matter addition to keep the soil fertile.
A large mass of sediment deposited at the mouth of a river. Delta. In science, a delta is a landform where a river splits and spreads out into several branches before flowing into a larger body of water, creating a fan-shaped area.
Imagine trying to clean a cluttered room where everything just seems to pile up at the entrance. This situation is similar to how a delta forms, when a river carries sediment and deposits it at its mouth, creating a buildup over time. Just as the entrance of the room becomes a collection point for all the items being brought in, the mouth of the river becomes a collection point for sediment, building up new landforms as materials accumulate. Much like clutter accumulates at the threshold,
a lake formed by melted ice left behind by a glacier. Kettle. A kettle is a shallow, water-filled depression created when ice chunks from a glacier melt away.
imagine you're trying to clean up after a big party, and once you've moved all the big items and trash, you find small puddles of spilled drinks left behind. This is similar to how a glacier, after moving across the land and melting away, leaves behind small lakes called kettles. Just as the puddles are remnants of the larger event of your party, kettles are remnants of the massive glaciers, formed when chunks of ice are left behind melt, and create depressions filled with water.
Describes rock or soil that allows water to seep through. Permeable. In science, permeable means that a material lets liquids or gases pass through it.
Imagine trying to pour a cup of water onto a sponge versus a plastic sheet. Just as the sponge absorbs and allows water to pass through, while the plastic sheet repels it, permeable rock or soil allows water to seep through, unlike impermeable surfaces. In this analogy, the sponge represents permeable materials, like certain rocks and soils, that facilitate water passage, while the plastic sheet illustrates impermeable materials that block water flow.
A tiny groove in the soil made by flowing water. Rill. A rill is a small channel formed on the Earth's surface by the erosion of soil due to running water.
Imagine trying to untangle a pair of headphones that have frustratingly knotted up in your pocket. This is similar to how a rill forms in the soil, where water carves a path, creating a groove as it flows. Just as the repeated motion of pulling out and stuffing your headphones back creates a pathway for tangles, the continuous flow of water creates a rill, with both processes shaping their respective environments through persistent, guiding forces.
A large channel in soil created by water erosion. Gully. A gully is a deep ditch formed in soil when running water erodes and carries away the earth.
Imagine you're trying to keep your bedroom tidy, but every time you leave clothes on the floor, they start piling up and spreading out, creating a mess that's hard to manage. This is similar to how water erosion works. Just as the clothes create paths through the room, water carves out channels in the soil over time. The neglected clothes are like the water in a gully. Both are elements that move and accumulate, leading to a gradually expanding formation, whether it's a cluttered bedroom or a large soil channel.
A U-shaped lake that forms when a meander is cut off from a river. Oxbow Lake. An oxbow lake is a curved lake formed when a river meander gets cut off from the main channel.
Imagine trying to untangle a long, twisted headphone cable that has been looping around itself. Just like how the cable forms loops as it twists, a river naturally creates large bends called meanders as it flows across flat land. When a river meander becomes too tight, much like a tangled cable that you decide to bypass by using wireless headphones, the river might cut through the narrow neck of the loop, leaving a U-shaped oxbow lake behind. Similar to how you leave the tangled part of the cable aside.
A fan-shaped deposit formed as water flows down a slope. Alluvial fan. An alluvial fan is a triangle-shaped area where sediments spread out as a river slows down and leaves a mountain.
Imagine you're carrying a tray full of marbles and accidentally trip, causing the marbles to scatter across the floor in a fan shape. This scattering is similar to how an alluvial fan forms when water, carrying sediment, flows down a slope and spreads out at the base. Just like the marbles spreading out when the momentum is lost and they encounter the resistance of the floor. The sediments in an alluvial fan are deposited in a fan shape as the water slows down and spreads out on flatter ground.
A large flow of mud, rock, or soil mixed with water. Mud flow. In simple terms, mud flow is a fast-moving stream of liquid mud, often occurring after heavy rains, that travels down slopes or valleys.
Imagine you're trying to carry a tray stacked with different items through a crowded room and someone bumps into you. Just as you struggle to keep everything balanced and prevent it from toppling over. A mud flow occurs when the stability of rock, soil, and water is disrupted, causing it to cascade downhill. In both cases, the disturbance, whether it's a physical bump or an environmental trigger like heavy rain, breaks the precarious balance, leading to a chaotic and uncontrollable flow, much like the way your items scatter when your tray tips over.
A glacier that covers much of a continent. Continental glacier. A continental glacier is a massive ice sheet that spreads over a large part of a continent and can affect global climates.
Imagine trying to spread a thick layer of frosting evenly across a large cake. Just as the frosting covers the entire surface of the cake, a continental glacier spreads over vast portions of a continent. In this analogy, the frosting represents the glacier, which, like the frosting, moves outward from the center and covers everything in its path, reshaping the landscape beneath it, just as frosting smooths over the cake's surface.
A long, narrow glacier in a mountain valley. Valley glacier. A valley glacier is a river of ice that forms in a mountain valley.
Imagine trying to pour a thick smoothie through a narrow straw. Just like the smoothie slowly squeezes its way through the constricted space, a valley glacier inches its way down a mountain valley. The thick, slow-moving smoothie represents the dense ice of the glacier, while the narrow straw is akin to the confined mountain valley channeling the glacier's flow.
An area of land where water drains into a stream. Drainage basin. A drainage basin is a region where all the water flows into a particular river or stream.
Imagine trying to keep your kitchen floor dry while cooking, but every time you spill a little water, it flows towards the same corner of the room. This scenario is similar to how a drainage basin works, where all the rain that falls in the area eventually flows into a specific stream. Just like how the kitchen floor guides the spilled water to one corner, the land in a drainage basin channels rainwater through various smaller streams and rivers until it all converges into a main stream, highlighting how both the kitchen floor and the land shape the flow of water towards a central point.
The boundary between the land and a body of water. Shoreline. In science, the shoreline is where the land meets the ocean, lake, or river, constantly changing due to waves, tides, and weather.
Imagine trying to keep your house tidy while your kids play with their toys, just as it's challenging to maintain a clear boundary between clean and messy spaces at home. The shoreline represents the boundary between land and water, constantly shifting and changing with the tides. The clutter of toys represents the water's ebb and flow, while your efforts to tidy up mirror the shoreline's attempt to maintain a distinct line between the land and the sea.
When rain is acidic due to pollution. Acid rain. Acid rain is rainwater that has absorbed higher levels of pollutants like sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides, making it more acidic.
Imagine you're trying to enjoy a delicious scoop of ice cream on a sunny day, but someone accidentally spills a bit of lemon juice on it, making it sour and less enjoyable. This situation is similar to acid rain, while pollution in the atmosphere mixes with rainwater, turning it acidic and harmful. Just as the lemon juice changes the taste of your ice cream, pollutants like sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides from factories and vehicles mix with water vapor in the air, creating acidic compounds that fall as rain, altering the natural balance and impacting the environment negatively.